Well, we're dropping the girls off to the chisel plows. Are you guys going to be disappointed once you get done chisel plowing? You only got a couple of days left here. So,
yeah.
Well, scoot along, get moving. Come on, get moving. Let's get going. Time is money. Well, these guys are done in Marcellus here, and then they're moving towards home. What we did is we went in a big circle this year. We ended up starting far away from home to the north. Then we ended up going as far away from us to the east. And now we've come around in a big circle here. So they've got a couple of tips to change that they're gonna start working on. They've got to check their oils and stuff yet. And then they're gonna move to a farm that's only a couple of miles away from home. And then they've got some ground around the home farm to do. And then, yeah. So I've dropped them off. Now I'm gonna head to the planter myself. If we could get some rain today, I don't know if we're gonna have a whole day of rain. I've only got a little bit of corn in the back of the truck here, kind of anticipating on it. Maybe I should load up with a full pallet of seed, then it would rain for sure then. So we better get to the field, get serviced up. I gotta fuel up and get moving. Well, this hasn't been a sight that we have seen in a while here. We got a little bit of drizzle and rain on Sunday, but nothing like this. It looks like this storm is gonna set in on us here for a little bit. And we're just heading back to the shop now. Get the corn planter parked. We're gonna start working on some trucks here. This is probably gonna be maybe $1 million rain here, because we have not gotten any rain, any measurable rain, in a couple of weeks here. So kind of glad to see it come. It might end up coming in a little harder than we need it, but any little bit of moisture at this time is going to be much needed. So we're going to back this into the hay barn, and we're going to start working on trucks. We've got the differential that we can put into truck 10. We got to put the water cooler in truck 8. We've got to finish up putting the turbo together in truck 18. We got to start laying some hay down here. This rain is going to really bring it on. If it doesn't knock down what's already there. So we'll get back to the shop and we'll get some stuff going on here. Well, I just pulled into the dooryard here, and I can turn my wipers off because it's not raining anymore, but you can kind of see the way the water is running down the driveway here that we got quite a bit of rain, but it was short-lived. So we're gonna go ahead and back into the hay barn, and we're gonna be able to work in the shop for a few hours. The boys are running around shutting curtains and doors on the barns. By the time they got everything shut, it stopped raining. So, oh, back window's a little dirty. I don't even know if I need to back this in if it's done raining. Yeah, might as well not even back in. I'll just back up to where we load the fertilizer truck here. There isn't any sense in putting this inside. It's already wet. It might as well stay outside and dry off. And we'll get some work done in the shop. Jared's got an oil change that the 9410 needs. And we got to start thinking about getting that off of the pottinger and getting it onto the silage blade, and we'll have to get the 9560 over onto the pottinger here, and we'll have to use that to maybe finish the rest of this ground fitting here for the, yeah. So the guys that are digging the hole for the bunk, they're trying to get things packed in and whatever, so the water has kind of stopped them. So we're gonna run down to the shop and see what we can get done here. But it's it has stopped raining. It's just sprinkling. Well, today was going to be the last day of chisel plowing. The girls don't really want to quit, but they've got too much mud on their tires. They've got this field here done. They've got one strip to do over there, and then one down on the bottom of the hill and one on the other side of the road. We just don't want to make a mess in the road. The rain is just about stopped here now, and we'll have to wait till things dry up a little bit before we can get these tractors out on the road. You got all your tools? Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to get back to the shop here, and we'll have to let things dry out for a day or so, but they've only got about 40 acres left to do here. And they'll get that finished, get these plows unhooked, and get them tractors on to their next assignment here. Well, the rain came right at the right time. This tractor is about 3 hours over on a service. So they're getting the oil changed on that. Tim's just waiting for the air compressor to build back up here. And it is sprinkling nicely. Boy, that rain came down hard. I said, oh, is this how we're gonna get it? Frickin' 2 inches all at once. But it only rained hard for a few minutes, and then it kind of backed itself down. And now we're just getting a nice drizzle. This is just what we need here. We don't need the ground to crust over it all here. So the only problem is it has not rained in 2 weeks since we started planting corn here. And we've been into dust. It has been terribly dusty. And we've been getting to the point now where we're starting to plug filters pretty good. You should have seen the dust cloud he blew out of this one air filter here. And that air filter was brand new when we started. Look at that. He spent 10 minutes already blowing that out. And that's how much is left in that. You can kind of see the dust cloud in the shop here. So we're going to try to get to this differential here, get that in there, get working on them 2 trucks. W900 had a injector leaking on, injector boot or cup rather, that was leaking on it. That's down to Milton Cat. It's done, and Jared and Tim are going to go down and get that in a little while here. And that also had a bad injector on it. So we're going to put our parts together for this truck 8 here. And here's another pile of dirt that came out of that air cleaner. Now you might say, just replace it. It'll be fine. We'll blow it out. It'll be fine. So we'll go ahead and show you what we've got going on with this truck 8. Got a little rub action there. She comes together.
You could feel like me.
Yeah. Yeah, Tim likes to christen the toolboxes. We even got a little rubber spatter here. Right there. That's why that's shaped like that. So when you rub up against it, you leave your christening mark. So, what are your thoughts on this unit here?
Well, this thing's great.
Yeah. We have used this for 98% of the, there's his cab filter. 98% of the finishing before the, getting the seed bed ready and whatever, the final preparations to, and before we plant these fields. Now, we haven't replaced one gang bearing.
There are none.
I'm talking about when we use the Landau disc.
Yeah.
When we use the Landau disc, we were replacing C-springs, bearings, having gangs loosen up. He runs this, he gets in it and goes. There isn't anything that this needs other than grease. So
durable as can be. There's not one bent disc on this thing. You just get in it and you drive it.
Get in and go.
You just don't worry. You just run it.
Does a great job. So despite the The cost of this machine, it's more or less paid for itself. I wouldn't say it's paid for itself yet, but it is doing a good job with earning its keep here. So one thing we have to find out, what size pin we're gonna need. Well, I know it's a 2-inch pin, but we want to use this on the 9560, and it's got a slightly larger pin, so I don't know if we've got to change this end here, or if I can get a bushing for a smaller pin on that 9560. So we want to get the silage blade on this tractor, so when we chop hay next week, it'll be ready to push bunk here. We got about 600 acres of corn ground to get ready yet here, and I don't think we're going to be able to finish it all with this tractor. So this is truck 8 here. Back the day before we started planting corn is when I tore this apart. If you recall, we had coolant or motor oil going into the coolant, and we later determined that it had a bad oil cooler on it. So we've got a new oil cooler here, or a remanufactured one, and we're going to go ahead and put that on there. I ended up making a couple of plates up to put on, I put them here. I put the plates on there to test this oil cooler, and if I have any old footage of that, I can drop that in now. But essentially what we did is we capped off one side of it, put air on the other side, and we dumped it into a 5-gallon pail, and you could actually see the air bubbles in the actual cooler itself. So this is the oil cooler, and what it does is it has the engine oil goes through it, and there's also coolant passing through, and when the coolant passes through, it cools the engine oil. So we've got to do some cleanup here, get ready to get some new O-rings in. We've got the block heater that comes in through this side here. You got the coolant that runs through the center, and then the oil comes up in through the oil passageway, and the oil ends up circulating around inside this cast piece here. So we've got to get some parts laid out and start working on this to get it back together. Well, Jared just pulled in with a 900 here. We're going to take a little break from working on this truck 8. And this has turned into a $1 million rain. It is coming down gently here. What we ended up having go wrong with that truck, we had diesel fuel slipping its way into the coolant. I can't remember what I stated earlier. I might have had that wrong with what was going on with that, because we had oil going into the coolant on this truck and fuel going into the coolant on that one, and we ended up taking it down to Milton Cat. That's our local cat dealership, and what they ended up doing is putting new injector cups in it, and we'll talk about that once we go for a ride around the block here. So it looks like we're gonna get wet walking to the truck here. Alright, we're going to go for a little ride with this, and they ended up plugging this into the computer, and they found out that this has got, how many hours on it?
30,000 hours.
29,000 something.
Yeah,
right?
it was like 29,670 or something. It was high 29, you could just round it up to 30.
So this engine, I've had this truck since 2012. And Cat had no information on this truck as far as it ever being into a Cat dealership. And this truck, when I bought it, was sound. It was just as tight as can be. What they ended up doing is they replaced the injector cups, and it had one bad injector on it too. So this was only running on 5 cylinders.
Yeah, the spring was broken on the injector and it wasn't firing.
So, we don't know how long that has been like that, because we really didn't notice any decrease in power from what it had. So this truck might be slightly dangerous here. We have taken rear ends out of this truck. It's an animal, so he's gonna have to back her down a little bit here, I think, once we get out and get the big tires on it. Yeah, ease her down. Got the tall shifter on here. This is one of Benny's gifts to Jared. Jared was going to take it off of there, but he's left it on there. As you can see, he's got some of his ducks in a row. Oh, it's getting hot in here. I'm gonna get up on Route 20 here and give her what for. We ain't got a trailer hooked on, so we really can't show you what it's capable of, but we'll just show you how clean it runs. They adjusted the jakes too, right? We'll give you some jake brake here. A little tighter on the jake brake, huh? So they ran the overhead on this too, naturally, because they had the valve covers all off of it, and she runs nice. This has got 443,000 miles on it, and I have put
7,701 hours.
7,700 hours on it since I've had it in 2012. Doing the jake brake for the purposes of this video. There is no reason why you have to jake brake an empty truck. You know, or you're going to be turning ahead of time, you just very carefully just start backing off of the throttle. So many times these guys, the super truckers, they got to wait till they're 100 feet away from their turn, and then they jake brake down every gear when they're empty, or even if they're loaded. If you know where you're going to be turning, slow down. Just back off the throttle and give the truck some time. You don't have to pull it right up to the point and then back it right down with a jake brake. All right, so we're gonna get back in the shop. We're gonna finish up truck 8. We've got the oil cooler on there. I'm in the middle of getting the hoses off of it, changing all of the radiator hoses, and gonna put some water in it with some dish detergent, clean all that oily, grimy stuff out of there, and then we'll put some fresh coolant in it. Just for the record here, this ended up being $7,769. That's 6 new injectors and 6 injector cups with an overhead adjustment. Not too bad, I don't think. Here we are. We have the oil cooler put into place. We're just getting ready to bolt the turbo on. I replaced all of the radiator hoses. There's one here, there's one over there. Got this 1-inch hose that comes off the reservoir and it comes into the, where does that go? Into the water pump. And it comes off, there's another one down off the bottom of the water pump into the bottom of the radiator. Then there's heater hoses that go up into the heater core. And then there's a set of hoses that goes around and it gets into the transmission cooler, which is sitting right down there on top of the transmission. Now, you might be asking, hey, why didn't you replace these small hoses going over into the coolant filter? Well, didn't have to replace those because these valves were turned off. So apparently when the oil was changed on this last time and they changed this coolant filter, they turned the gate valves off so that they could get this filter off of there without losing any coolant, and they didn't turn them back on. So that's one way to save on your coolant filter. Keep your valves turned off. So we replaced the filter anyways because I gouged it up quite a bit getting it off with pliers, or the actual oil filter pliers themselves. So we're gonna go ahead and bolt this turbo on there. We're gonna fill the coolant system with water and laundry or dish detergent. Let that run through there, get all the oil out of it. Now, the reason why we replace these hoses is once the oil gets into the actual rubber hoses, the oil will start breaking down the rubber and these things will swell right up and then they end up bursting. So here's the hoses that we took off of this. So let's get this turbo on there, get some dish detergent in there, and try to get this douched out and get this out of the shop and we can get on truck 18. Well, we've got the turbo back on there, and as you can see, that turbo kind of hides that oil cooler quite a bit. I ended up putting some dish detergent in the radiator, into the cooling system. Now we're running regular fresh water in there. I ended up pulling the thermostat out, which the thermostat goes in right here. The thermostat is out of there. We're gonna go ahead and put a new one in. And it's probably gonna leak a little bit right there because I did not put a new gasket on that thermostat housing. Yeah, it looks like we've got something leaking out here right now. We've got this guy right here. So that clamp is obviously not tight enough, so I'll have to get a socket on that and tighten that clamp down a little bit. But these little problems can be expected here, so let me come back to you. I'll tighten that clamp up. We are now full of water. I ended up tightening this clamp up on this boot that goes in between the oil cooler and the water pump. So that clamp, I just didn't have it tight enough. Be honest with you, I put them on with the impact and I just bumped them with the impact. I did not want to strip the clamp out, so I should have went back through and retorqued those. So we've got the old radiator cap on there. I do have a new one, but I worry about what the oil has done to the rubber. on the cap. Now, the reason why we replaced all these rubber hoses is like what I stated earlier. The oil will deteriorate the hose, and we ran into that problem with the 9560. John Deere advised to change all the hoses, and we did, and there was a heater hose that we didn't change, and that ended up blowing on Sarah about 4 days into chisel plowing with it. So we're gonna go ahead and start it up now, make sure we don't have any oil leaks on the turbo. Gonna let it run, get it up to operating temperature, dump the water out, reload it with water, and do that a couple, 3 times, and then we'll get the coolant back in there. And hopefully it takes care of it. So it should. We did test that oil cooler, and the old one was leaking. This new one was like $1,400, I think. So let's go ahead and get it running. Well, we went on like a 10-mile ride here, and they're just draining this out on the ground. It's just water and soap. So let that continue running out, and then we'll show you what came out of this. This is what came out of this truck, and that is actually coolant. The oil is risen to the top, and if we move this a little bit, you could start to see the redness in it, but all the oil is up in the top of that, and that's what we dealt with. So we're gonna rinse this out a couple times, and that is gonna do it for this video. I'll get this truck done, and then I'm gonna start working on that one. So when we come back at you with the next video here, it'll be that truck there.